Okay, I apologize for videos starting later today than normal, but it's Sunday, so most of you people aren't at work, and if you are, I'm really sorry. I'm really, really sorry for that. So that being said, while the videos are starting a little bit later today than normal, I'm starting with madness. Yeah. So the madness for today is the draft. Round one, round two, round three, round four. Simple enough, right? I went through last night and I painstakingly put all of these on the board. And then this morning, I put everybody along the bottom. So if you're interested to know where teams are drafting, this is the draft board for that. If you're interested to know, well, I just want to know my team, that's what this video is for. So while some people may look at this and go, oh, hey, I didn't know that pick had been traded, I'm here to let you guys know where everybody's going to draft. In case you don't want to go through this whole thing and memorize it. Don't try to memorize it. It's a bad idea. Give yourself a headache and nosebleed. First and second round picks are in red on this bottom list. They're in black if they're third or fourth round picks. Because, of course, the red picks are the ones that are going to be more in demand. Anaheim drafts 23rd, 54th, 79th, 85th, and 116th. Now, when it comes to the draft, the ones you're going to want to watch are the ones where they draft two times close together. I'm looking at you, Arizona. These picks, it can be tempting for a GM to take those picks, package them up, and go get somebody that they want in the first or second round. So they say, hey, Joe Veleno's still on the board. I can't believe he's fallen this far. Let's make a deal so we can get him. That's the kind of deal that we'll be looking for on Friday and then on Saturday as well. And don't shortchange Saturday where you get into the second through seventh round because you get some trades that happen that day too. The draft is much faster on Saturday than it is on Friday. A lot less pomp and circumstance on Saturday for the second through seventh rounders. Arizona drafts fifth. Arizona drafts at 5, 55, 65, 73, and 74. That's a lot easier to say. 73, 74, 65. I wouldn't be surprised to see John Chayka take those three picks and try to move up into the early second or add something so he can move up into another first round draft pick. He is a GM that thinks way outside the box. Like we were talking, he's nowhere near the box, is what I'm saying. And Arizona is clearly a team that feels that they want to take their shot, and he may want to add another premier level prospect beyond what they're already going to get at 5. So watch those picks. Boston doesn't draft till 57th. Don Sweeney has been on the record for saying that he regrets not drafting till 57th. He hasn't said he's regretted the Rick Nash trade, and I still don't. And maybe that's just because I'm a Boston fan, but I still don't regret that trade. I still think it was a decent deal. You're taking a shot. You're going for it. But the Kovalchuk rumors are driving me nuts. And yet everybody's in on Kovalchuk. So as a Boston fan, I'm kind of like, oh, please no. And it's not that I dislike Kovalchuk. It's just I would worry about him occupying a spot that I'd rather see one of the young kids get. Looking at Ryan Donato here. Because that experience is huge for them. Buffalo drafts at 1, 32, 94, and 117. So what you'll notice is this. Anaheim's got 5, Arizona 5, Boston has 3 in the first 4 rounds, Buffalo has 4. So when you start getting into future watch issues and you start talking about which teams built a really solid group of prospects, this is usually where it happens. It's like buying lottery tickets. Your odds of winning aren't great, but if you buy extra lottery tickets, you got a better shot. So basically GMs who've got the extra picks want to have that seat so they can win the lottery. And Boston probably doesn't win it. And then you get to Calgary, who doesn't draft till 105th. And then they draft again at 108. So will they take those 2 picks and try to move up into the 90s? I don't know. The odds of anybody past 100 making the NHL, they're slim. I've had people asking me about it. I intend to mess with this board further. This is not the last time you're going to see this board. I'm not taking this board apart either. I will be messing with this board, and what I'm going to do is I'll put names of players who've been drafted in each position that have become NHLers. I'll say in the last 10 years. I'll try. And I know there's not room on the board for everybody, so I'll do my best to... We'll see if I have room. I don't think that I have room. I'll try to figure something out, though. I might be insane. That being said, let us move on to Carolina. They drafted 2, 42, 96, and 104. 96 and 104 are within 10 spots of one another. Wouldn't be entirely surprised to see them flip one of those picks. If somebody's available, if, for instance, maybe there's nobody that they want at 96, but maybe Detroit wants somebody. So maybe they do a swap of picks and add a fifth, whatever. This is the kind of picks movement you're going to see. And every now and then a guy in an expiring contract will get moved on draft day because a team wants exclusive rights to negotiate with him for a few days. Sometimes that works out. Other times they're Christian Ehrhoff and it doesn't. Chicago drafts at 8, 27, 69, 87, and 120. So Chicago has 5 picks, 2 in the first round. And, 27 isn't bad. I'm sure Nashville wishes it was a 31 pick, but it was 27. Colorado, 16, 47, 58, 78, and 109. Colorado with 5 picks in the first 4 rounds, even though the Colorado Avalanche are a playoff team, that's still where they draft. Columbus, 18, 49, and 80. So good news for Columbus fans. You didn't trade your first round pick to try to hit a home run in the playoffs. The bad news, you've only got 3 picks in the first 4 rounds. The good news of that is the pick that got traded was the 4th round pick. So there's good news, bad news in this. But for Columbus fans, you're not going to see your name a lot on the board. Dallas has 5 picks. 13, 44, 75, 100, and 106. So again, with 100 and 106, maybe Jim Nill can figure something out at the draft table where he can turn those picks into something else. But when you're in the hundreds, it's more difficult because the odds of those players panning out aren't great unless a team says, I'm going to draft a goalie in this spot. Can I have those picks, Jim? That can happen. Detroit is going to be one to watch. They drafted 6, 30, 33, 36, 67, 81, 84, 98, 99, 100. No, just kidding. 98's where it stops. 8 picks in the first 4 rounds. Ken Holland with a new 2-year deal might feel a little bit gutsy. Maybe he takes 30, 33, and 36 or some combination of those picks and moves his way up the draft board, say 23. Say Anaheim at 23 looks at their picks and they go, well, there's nobody here that we really necessarily want very much. But there's somebody we know Ken Holland wants. So they make the call. Holland says, sure. They get picks 30 and 33. Holland gets 23. And Anaheim gets 2 picks for the price of 1. And that's a pick that was Ottawa's, went to the Rangers, and then ended up in Detroit's hands. So it's been laundered nicely. It has been laundered through teams nicely. Edmonton only has 3 picks. They have 10, 40, and 71. And when you only got 3 picks in the first 4 rounds, and the rumor is you're willing to move that number 1 pick, I think you're insane. I understand that they're entertaining offers, but really honestly, the Oilers can pick up a defenseman at 10 that'll be pretty darn good. Won't be ready right away, maybe ready in a couple years, and that's really what Edmonton needs to do. Stop looking at this as we need to win now, and just look at the long game. There's nothing wrong with looking at the long game and getting your prospects and picking up kids. Florida also only has 3 picks, even though they missed the playoffs. 15, 34, and 123. So they have a pick later than the Oilers in the first round. But in the second round, they have Arizona's pick. So Florida's in a decent spot. I don't think there'll be any movement there. Their 3rd pick isn't until 123. LA's got 4 picks, 20, 51, 82, and 113. That's right. LA didn't move any of their picks and didn't pick any up either. So LA's in pretty good shape. Minnesota, 24, 63, 86, and 92. They may take 86 and 92 and try to turn that into something else. Minnesota, of course, is without its second rounder that they traded to the Arizona Coyotes. But 63 is still a decent spot. They picked that up from Minnesota, or from Buffalo. So I don't necessarily look at Minnesota and say, oh, they're in trouble. They're just drafting 8 spots later than they would have. Montreal is going to be interesting. So they drafted 3, 35, 38, 56, 66, 97, 102, 122. For the mathematicians at home, that's 8 picks in the first 4 rounds. We talk a lot about Bergevin, and rightly so. We talk a lot about Bergevin's record at the trade table more than the draft table. But there are a lot of moves that Montreal can make here. And you know what? I'm starting to think that maybe they're crazy enough to take that number 3 pick and move it to the Islanders for 11 and 12. I'm starting to think he's that crazy. The Bergeron's like, we want to come out of this with centers, and at 11 and 12 we can get Veleno. At 11 and 12 we can probably come out of that with another top line center. I don't think Kotkaniemi's going to drop that far. I don't think he'd drop past Chicago, to be honest, but he may just go just poof, and 11 and 12 belong to Montreal. Wouldn't necessarily surprise me, and then they have 9 picks in the first 4 rounds. I'm very interested to see what Montreal does. The Nashville Predators don't draft till 89th. So if you're a Preds fan, you don't need your jersey on day 1. And on day 2, you don't need it until the 3rd round. And I don't see that changing. I don't see Nashville making any big deals to move up in the draft. New Jersey drafting at 17th, and they don't draft again until 110th. So their 2nd round pick went to the Rangers. 3rd round pick went to the Anaheim Ducks. And now they don't draft again until the 4th round at 110th. And that's... I mean, it's a good news, bad news thing, I guess. They didn't trade their 1st round pick. But the 2nd rounder, 3rd rounder, we'll see what it does for their overall depth. I know I had a lot of people saying, if this draft's so great, why are all these picks getting traded? That was a comment I saw a lot. Notice the highest pick that got traded was 12th, which is Calgary's. And they wouldn't have traded it if they'd known it was going to be 12th. And St. Louis had it protected against being a top 3 pick. And I don't think St. Louis would go back and do this trade over again. I honestly don't. And then you've got Pittsburgh, Boston, Nashville, Tampa, Winnipeg, and Vegas. So 5 in a row here towards the bottom of the 1st round and nothing in the top 11. So yes, it looks like a lot of draft picks have changed hands in the 1st round, but it's an expanded 1st round off what we normally have by 1, and I think that's just part of the price now that you pay when you're making trades. But there's only 2 in the top 21 that have been traded, and that's nothing compared to some of the other years. The New York Islanders at 11, 12, 41, 43, 72, and 103. 41 and 43 really interest me. What are the Islanders going to do there? What's Lou going to do? Could Lou pull the trigger on a goaltender in the 2nd round? He could. There are goaltenders that are projecting to be mid-late 2nd rounders, early 3rd. And goalies are such a wild card in the playoffs. But honestly, one of the things Lou Lamoriello is known for, wherever he's been, he grabs a goalie that's reliable. And that could very well be the case here as well. The Rangers at 9, 26, 28, 39, 48, 70, 88, 101. Holy crow. So the New York Rangers also have 8 picks in the first 4 rounds. Some teams know how to do the rebuild thing right. And the Rangers, it's a retool, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see how it works out. Because at 26, 28, and 39, they're in a very good position to negotiate with the team. Again, who may look at the board and say, well, there isn't anybody who interests us, meets our needs, or qualifies as a guy that we're willing to bend over backwards for. But, we'll take those picks, because that's extra picks. And the Rangers are in a position to give up a couple of picks and still be in pretty good shape when it comes to fixing some flaws on the team, both short and long term. Ottawa, this is where the problem comes in. They draft at 4, 22, and 95. Ottawa does not own its 1st round pick next year. That goes to the Avalanche. Ottawa cannot afford to be in this position again next year, or Jack Hughes could end up going to the Colorado Avalanche in exchange for Matt Duchene. That would be the ultimate disaster for the Ottawa Senators. They do have 2 1st round picks this year, and I expect them, maybe they take 4 and 22 and see if that can move them up the board. Because and again, Brady Tkachuk, depending on who you talk to, is either going to get drafted in the 4 spot or as low as 7th or 8th. And yet there's some who think that he's better than Zadina and should go at 3rd. It'll be really interesting to see what Pierre Dorion does here. And how much Dorion is distracted by everything that's going on. For instance, for example, the assistant GM that's been suspended, I haven't done a video on it because we don't have a whole lot to go on there other than it's been a harassment accusation and it's ugly and it's just another thing to just sort of dig at the Sens. So I'm not going to jump on that. But Dorion's got to get his head in the game and figure out what he's going to do at the draft table. Philly has 4 picks, 14, 19, 50, and 112. Many Philly fans have asked me, do you think they can take those 2 picks and move up? They can, but do they want to? Is Ron Hextall in a position where he can look at 14 and 19 and say, well, odds are they're not going to be superstars anyways, so I'll move this one or that one. I don't know that they're there. I really don't know that they're there. Pittsburgh doesn't draft till 53rd, and then they draft again at 64. I don't expect that to change. San Jose drafts at 21, and then not again until 114. So again, this is where some teams are going to have with a really bad draft grade coming out because they just don't have picks. St. Louis, 29, 45, 76, and 107. And they'd love to have that 14th pick back. I really believe that. They had no idea. They kind of got broadsided. The good news for St. Louis is they have a good enough roster, a solid enough roster from top to bottom. They should be a playoff team again this coming season. Tampa, they don't draft till 59, and then they draft at 90 and 121. So Tampa, they lost their first. They traded that away to the Rangers, and then they have their own second, third, and fourth. Toronto has 4 picks, 25, 52, 83, and 118. So they make the trade with San Jose. They get 52. They lost their pick at 56 to the Montreal Canadiens. Now, if they'd had 52 and 56, we'd be discussing whether or not they might move up. They have 4 picks. Would I be surprised to see Toronto move up? No. I don't think that Kyle Dubas is done remaking this team. Vancouver, they have 3 picks because... Yeah, they have 3 picks. And it's frustrating. They draft at 7 and 37, and then they draft again at 68. So they have 3 of their own picks in the first 4 rounds. I think most of us at the trade deadline said if they can pick up draft picks, any. Look at some of these teams with 8. And what they can do with these 8 picks. And Vancouver's got 3. Sorry, they have 3. I was going to say 4 because it's 4 rounds. But they got rid of their 4th rounder because of course they did. And it went to Vegas. So let's discuss Vegas. They have 3 picks, 61, 99, and 115. Of course, their first round pick got traded to the Detroit Red Wings for Thomas Tatar. And they have their own second. They traded their third to the Minnesota Wild. They picked up a 4th from Pittsburgh via Vancouver. And then they have a 4th of Pittsburgh's via Tampa. That 4th was Vancouver's via Pittsburgh. So they're in a good spot, honestly, Vegas. They have some good prospects from last year's draft. They seem to be astute when it comes to free agent signings and moves in general. And it'll be interesting to see if George McPhee decides to make a move to get another pick. He may. He doesn't have a whole lot to negotiate with that's actually at the table right now, but he may take a piece on the roster and move that in order to get on the board again. Washington's in surprisingly good shape for being a defending Stanley Cup champion. They have 5 picks, 31, 46, 62, 93, and 124. They have Florida's pick via New Jersey, and they have their own 2nd round pick, 3rd round pick, 4th round pick, and their own 1st. So Washington has a nice pick in the middle of that 2nd round. Maybe Washington might try something, although I doubt it. Winnipeg's the last team on the board, alphabetically, and they don't draft till 60, and then they draft at 91. Their 4th round pick went to Montreal. Their 1st round pick went to the St. Louis Blues for Paul Stastny, who all indications seem to be will not be returning to the Jets next year. So there you go. 31 teams and their first 4 rounds. I didn't put up 7. I actually did intend to put up 7 rounds. I did. I thought I could do 7 rounds, and then I started working on it, and because of all the traded picks, I'm like, I don't have room for that. So there you go. There's your primer for the draft on Friday. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for all your support. I'll talk to you again soon.